Have you ever felt that deep, unexplainable chill when something unseen brushes past you, or when a faint, strange sound in the dark convinces you that you are not alone? Sometimes the most ordinary places hide the most unsettling secrets, and if you stay with me until the very end of this story, you might just realize how fragile our sense of safety truly is, and how little we really understand about what lingers just beyond our sight and perception. So hold on tight, because what you are about to hear will challenge your every notion of reality. When I first accepted the job, it seemed like a dream. 2 weeks, isolated, in a fire watchtower deep in the wilderness, far from any road or human contact, with nothing but a radio to check in daily, no phones, no internet, and a paycheck handed to me in cold, hard gesikkish. They said it was part of a government initiative to reactivate stations long forgotten, satellites of history now given a brief second life, and I was merely a body to man the tower, watch the kitchi, forest, and report any signs of fire or trouble. Simple, quiet, and boring were the promises, and for someone eager to escape the constant buzz of city life, it felt like a blessing. But what unfolded was anything but ordinary, because the tower wasn't just an old structure, with rusted steel beams rising 40 feet into the air, and a creaking vertical ladder leading to a cabin at its crown. It was a place, steeped in silence, thicker and colder than anything outside, as though the air inside was held deliberately still, imprisoning cold shadows that even the bright afternoon sun struggled to penetrate. The first few days passed in the manner I had hoped, slowly scrolling through notebooks, sipping instant coffee, watching clouds drift lazily across the horizon, hearing nothing but the occasional whisper of wind and the birds far away. Yet the calm didn't feel natural. It felt held, as if the silence was waiting for something. And the first sign of life I noticed was a faint, uneven scratching beneath the floorboards on the tower's northeast corner. At first I tried to dismiss it, falling back on the explanation of a restless animal, maybe a squirrel or bird tapping at the wood, but the sound was too precise and repeated, like fingers, dragged slowly and deliberately, tracing strange spirals into the aged timber. I knocked on the floor, shining my flashlight beneath, searching for holes, nests, or gaps, but found nothing but rotting wood and stubborn bolts holding the structure tight. Nothing to explain the persistence of these ghostly marks. Yet each night, that scratching returned, louder, more insistent, etching itself into my growing unease, until I found what no mundane animal would do. Ia. Message. Carved shallow but purposeful on the underside of my desk and only visible when lying flat on the floor. Words set into the wood with jagged strokes that froze my blood before my brain could fully comprehend their warning. It said 5 lines. Don't leave after dark. Don't answer the ladder. Don't look at its hands. Don't speak your name. And whatever you do, don't open the trapdoor. That moment cemented the grave truth. Something was here, something watching, and communicating in its own terrible language. And even more chilling was how carefully the warnings seemed designed for me, as if someone else had been trapped here long before, as if I was part of a chain of silent victims. Right then, if you haven't already, take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell, because stories like these live on through community, through a shared understanding that sometimes we have to shine a light into the darkness together. And your support keeps this tale alive. After my initial shock faded, I called headquarters and reported the carving. They laughed it off, blaming some long-dead prankster who used to station here, who had a penchant for creepy poems etched into wood. But even that didn't explain the sixth line I discovered the very next night, freshly carved into the window frame. It doesn't like being watched. From that moment, I kept every light burning bright. The tower blazed with bulbs and flickering flashlights all through the night, a bastion against the dark. But at midnight, a sinister flicker of the power reminded me how thin that barrier was between me and whatever lurked beneath. The light faltered and died briefly, followed by 4 slow, deliberate knocks from beneath the trapdoor on the floor. The knocks weren't random. They were testing, gentle but firm, the bolt rattling as something pressed, as if it was trying to confirm if the door was locked. And then, the unthinkable, a whisper of my own name carried through the wood from the shadow below. Soft, cold, spoken like an echo of my own voice from some place I dared not imagine. Frozen in terror, I could only stare at the hatch as the dark whispered and coaxed me like a cruel lullaby until the first rays of dawn forced light back into the cabin. When morning came, nothing seemed to explain what had happened, except footprints, human-shaped but horribly wrong, bare toes bent backwards in the dust near my cot. Someone or something had been in there while I was frozen with fear. I tried to reject it, convince myself it was a nightmare, so I threw all the windows wide open, allowed the wind to scour the chamber, took a cold sponge bath to shake off the heaviness. But then my gaze caught what was terrifyingly different. The trees were closer now. What was once a wide clearing of 50 to 60 feet had vanished, replaced by towering pines pressing their needles right against the windows, their hair-like boughs brushing the glass like fingers reaching in. That same day, tucked between 2 floorboards close to my cot, I discovered a folded black and white photo, curled and faded with age. It was a distant shot of the Watchtower, taken from what looked like the edge of the forest. But there was something horribly wrong in the image, something I couldn't ignore. A tall, unnaturally thin figure stood at the tower's top near the trapdoor, its arms long enough to bend at its knees, fingers trailing beneath the ladder's rungs, and where the face should have been was just a bludgeoning smudge, a warping of film and light. But more haunting than that was the window above. Someone, or something, pressed against the glass, their face hidden beneath a hat just like mine, wearing the same patched jacket, smiling the same chilling expression I glimpsed in the mirror that very morning. On the back of the photo was a single, haunting message scratched in blocky, uneven ink. "You let it out." That moment sent a cold shock through me. I locked the trapdoor with the desk wedged tight against it, secured every window, and illuminated the tower with every light I had, waiting through the long hours filled only with whispers, not knocks that night, but distant voices coaxing me to come back down, as if the dark had secrets I'd forgot or tried to hide from. The final message appeared beneath my cot, carved into the cold metal of the support frame. Words that crushed my heart. "You opened it in your sleep." Yet every physical barricade remained just as I left it. The hatch bolted, the desk wedged firmly, but my nails were torn, cracked, and bleeding. My hands ached, as if clawing at something unseen, and my shirt was stained with pine needles, and something darker still. I haven't risked radioing headquarters since. I suspect no one is listening, or worse, that my calls are meaningless to whatever watches from the trees now pressed just inches from the windows, And then, just yesterday, through the dense canopy, I saw it. Another tower, taller and thinner than mine, built of metal darker than rust, its windows sealed and blacked out, a monolith that hadn't been there before. I saw a flicker of light inside for a second, like a match or flashlight, and then a figure at the window, pressed face against the glass, watching me with a smile that looked just like mine. If you've stayed with me this far, you've walked the edge of the unknown beside me, into the territory where silence becomes a prison and shadows a trap. So if this story gripped you, please ensure you subscribe and hit the bell, because more tales like this demand witnesses. And remember, some doors are meant to remain closed, some names spoken in whispers, and some watchers lurking just beyond the thin veil of our reality, waiting patiently for the next light to flicker and the next soul to look too long into the darkness. Sweet dreams.